And that's one reason that I started doing this live broadcasting, Charlie, is because, yes, the situation right now, it's simmering, and it's been simmering, and it's getting warmer. Maybe we're reaching an apex. The thing is, we don't know because it's such a multivariable equation, and it's not even an equation. It's a graph that keeps just changing. It is an equation, but it does keep changing. So we don't know. It affects financial, economical, obviously the biomedical, and I don't know. I mean, it just seems like I want to make use of my liberty to speak, to have freedom of speech, and to connect with people around the world. I want to use it while I can.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, because I do foresee, okay, it could be, this could be a boon in the long run, right? We learn from it. We don't let the government and the media take advantage of us. We have masks and gloves and proper sanitary, precautions and supplies in our houses, et cetera, et cetera. We're set for a few weeks. Or this leads to World War III, which I do think is a possibility, and not a huge one, but we could be going down that road of martial law, losing all your rights. You can't broadcast. So for me, it was like, I'm trying to talk to these people that I really respect and whose work I'm interested in while I still can, and make use of these freedoms that we have in this great country. Because I do believe in it, and I do have confidence in our principles as a country, not so much as the people who are currently leading it.
For sure. And I had this conversation with James Corbett, actually, from Corbett Report. He did a documentary called Medical Martial Law 2020. And like most of James' stuff, it's phenomenal. But it came out on March 21st. And he used a segment from an interview that he and I did together in this documentary that he put out. And one of the things that we were talking about was this, and this was what James was talking about, what if, and he prefaced it by saying, I don't even really want to put this out into the world, but I know that the social engineers have already thought of this. But he says, what if they roll this out and it's like a soft medical martial law where we're all in our houses and we have volunteered, we've just decided we're going to go into our homes and we're going to lock, not go out, and we're going to, shelter in place and do all these things. And this goes on for a couple of weeks. And then it lifts all of a sudden, boom, it just goes away. And they say, all right, we're past the brunt of it. Business is open. You guys can go back out, just be safe and be careful and do all this stuff. And we go back to our lives. He says, then what winds up happening is that in our heads, it's, well, martial law came and it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. That wasn't martial law.
and then the next time one of these things comes, because it'll obviously come again, it'll be like, oh, we got to go do that thing where we get in the house again. You're like, oh, okay, yeah. And we watch Netflix and it's not all that bad. And we kind of willingly go in, and then it's longer, and then it's even more severe, and then you know what I mean. And so it is. It
gets people comfortable with the idea of it.
For sure. Sure. This is
very passively and very kind of insidiously almost.
Yeah. And so that's one of the questions I had for James was, what if this is, the best kind, if you're an authoritarian maniac, the best kind of censorship is self-censorship for people. So what is the best kind of martial law? Self-martial law.
Yeah. Right? Where you it's the one where the citizens are reporting on each other, right?
For sure. Yeah. Then you allow that societal component of ratting on your neighbor, the societal peer pressure to then take hold, and they can enforce it for you, where you don't even need a standing army to do it. So then it becomes like, hey, you can't go out without your mask because you're endangering the rest of us. It's the same thing with the vaccine debate, which is you got to get your vaccines, because if you don't get your vaccines, then you're going to get all our kids sick. And you're like, hey man, if your vaccines work so well, then your kid has a magic bubble around him. So what are you worried about? And they don't have an answer for that argument, of course. But you'll wind up just fighting with idiots all day long that are like, put your mask on, and you're like, screw you, So this is what it'll be. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be overt martial law where you have troops on every street corner. That may come, of course, but it can also be this more devious form of self quarantine, which
Yeah.
is
I
you
read
know,
some of
stuff.
the Time Life series on World War II, which is just phenomenal, and I highly recommend people check it out. I actually haven't read them all, but I learned that the Nazis, they ran the entire country of Norway with like 800 Germans, and the rest
Oh
were
wow.
collaborators. The rest were collaborators. The entire country of Norway was ran by 800 Germans. And the thing is,
Wow.
they couldn't have done this otherwise. They didn't have enough people. You know, the collaboration is required.
Yeah.
In those types of situations, like the Netherlands too, most of the police force, they just switched over, started working for the Nazis, like with the the exception of a select few. So when there's kind of overreach of the centralized forces happens, they rely on citizens snitching on each other and collaborating with them.
For sure. The Department of Homeland Security under Janet Napolitano rolled out a program called "If You See Something, Say Something." Oh, you mean like Edward Snowden did? Yeah, I'm going to get right on that. You know, or you mean like Thomas Drake? Well, all these people that saw something and then said something, like Julian Assange and and Chelsea Manning, all these people that saw something, said something, and then how were they treated? They were treated like criminals. They were buried under the prison. So this stuff it doesn't work well. And I would remind people like these collaborators that want to work with the government and be snitches. Well, you know what also happened during World War II with the rise of Hitler was, he had the brown shirts, which were his little army that he rose up with, and they took care of all those people. But he grew a parallel army alongside that he didn't tell them about, which was the SS. And then once the brown shirts did their thing, he sucked the SS on the brown shirts and wiped them all out. So all you cops that think that you're just going to go work you're going to be on the government's payroll. When they want to put martial law, you're going to enforce it and everything. Be very careful, because when they're done with you, they will get rid of you. That's how it always works. So, collaborators, and even Eric Garcetti in LA, who's put out the mayor of LA said, talking about, oh, well, snitches get rewarded. Oh, really? They get rewarded? They don't get rewarded in prison. And so they're encouraging.
Who said that, Charlie?
The mayor of LA.
Oh my goodness. He said that this week?
He said it. Yeah, he said it this week, or maybe a couple of days ago at least. So
another thing too is they had this, and I thought that this is where you're going with that. Not only are just in reference to the collaborators, when the Allies liberated the Netherlands, this was known as Hatchet Day, because they knew who the traitors were, they knew who the collaborators were, and they hunted them down.
Be very careful about taking jumping on to be on the government side, because the government has no loyalty. They have no loyalty. And let's face it, all these cops and everything that, like when you see the yellow vest protests in France and everything, those cops are one bounced paycheck away from switching sides, So it's not like they are doing that out of like the goodness of their heart. They're being
paid. A proxy battle, essentially.
Yeah, it is. It really is a proxy battle. In fact, when Occupy Wall Street happened, and they allowed that to go for a while, and then all of a sudden there were a million cops there to crack down on things. Those cops were paid for by Citigroup. They hired them to go in there and get those dirty hippies out of the.
So they were just private.
They were cops, but they were paid. Their overtime was picked up, and the Citigroup just paid the bill for all of them. So
that's
they basically
like mercenary work, essentially.
Exactly. And if those cops hadn't agreed to do it, they would have brought in Blackwater.
Yeah, which is the professional mercenaries, for those that don't know.
Professional mercenaries. Yeah.